Hello and welcome once more to this Red Gaming Tech video. Myself, Marta, where as always I'm here with the latest from the tech world in the last 24 or so hours. I'm going to start things off today with the 5700 XT pricing. I'm sure you guys recall at E3 2019, Lisa Su detailed the pricing, amongst other things, of both the 5700 and 5700 XT. And now of course the prices are lower than what they initially stated, and Paul himself actually predicted before the price cut happened on the RX 5000 series that we would see a lowering of the price tag, and that essentially AMD jebaited Nvidia into, well, believing those higher prices when all along they intended to release them at these lower prices. And these are according to Radeon's Scott Herkelman. And there is an article linked in the description below this video from hothardware.com where he discusses this. And basically he said that AMD, quote, made the appropriate move not only to deposition their Super series, but also to logjam their 2060 and 2070, because we knew that they were having slower success and we wanted to do a double jebait. Now you might wonder, okay, that sounds pretty masterful actually if you think about it, but how do they know what Nvidia were going to price the RX Super series at? Obviously, sorry, the RTX, sorry, should I say? Because obviously there were rumours and reports and so on. So how do they know? Obviously they didn't know for sure, but they could take a damn good educated guess, and obviously they've got inside information. And Scott actually addressed this, saying, quote, we started modelling different competitive scenarios. Their die size is quite big, and we knew what they could probably afford in terms of margins and pricing, and what they were currently pricing their products at. We started using this data to say, okay, if they're starting to see lower sales and they're going to be under tremendous amount of pressure on price, and they're going to be under tremendous amount of pressure to figure out what they're going to do to increase sales once we launch Navi. We know that they have a tremendous burden on their gross margins because their die size is big, so we just gameplayed SEPs. Now obviously, as we saw, AMD did kind of leave themselves a bit of a safety net by revealing those prices that we initially saw. If their predictions were wrong and Nvidia actually had prices that perhaps were lower or higher than they predicted, they could decide to change the prices that they had decided upon. Obviously, Nvidia did pretty much what they expected, and Scott says, quote, the prices that we originally put out, we waited to see what they put out, and then we made the appropriate move to not only deposition their Super series, as I've already said, regarding the jebaiting of the 2060 and 2070. That's had a quote, of course. And he continues, quote, oh, that was the real jebait. I can't go into too much more detail, but it's been so much fun these last couple of weeks just playing that out. It's just fun to finally win. So, well played to AMD, that's all I can really say, to be honest with you. Well played. So let's move on from that topic, shall we, to the Radeon 7. So we have a very interesting report thanks to calcotland.com, and they are basically stating, according to their sources, that the Radeon 7 is already no more. It has already reached end of life and is no longer in production. So what does that actually mean? Well, what stock exists is it. Once the stores run out, there is going to be no more Radeon 7s. According to their article, which will be linked below, the card was declared end of life last month by AMD. You might think, hang on, end of life? Didn't it just come out? Yes, it did, in the grand scheme, but the 5700 XT is only roughly 10% slower in gaming. The Radeon 7 is much, much better in professional tasks, mind. But the card is also cheaper. It makes basically no sense for AMD to sell the Radeon 7. And you also may recall those reports way back in the day, before we knew Radeon, what was actually going on with Radeon 7 in terms of release date, pricing, etc., that it would be a limited production card. And obviously those rumours of it being extremely low amounts, like 50 cards I think was the amount being thrown around, obviously that didn't turn out to be true, but the reports of it being a limited run obviously were correct, given that it has already been declared end of life. So this also means that we're just not going to be seeing custom Radeon 7 models. We're only going to be seeing the original, and of course the fancy red Anniversary Edition, which I will say still looks really nice. I would happily buy a card from AMD that has a red shroud in the future. Just do more red shrouds, AMD. It just looks cool, okay? And I'm just, black GPUs, they're cool. I like the colour black. 95% of my wardrobe is black. I'm a metalhead. Kind of goes without saying. But just a red one. Just be nice. Anyway, let's move on to our next topic, which is actually a benchmark, an early benchmark, I just want to stress, for Navi 14. So I'm not going to go super in depth with this particular benchmark. You will see it on screen, of course, and you will find it linked in the description below. Yes, lots of links there for you today. But this is an early card. But let's talk a little bit about what we see here. So let's just focus on a couple of advanced compute ones and game effects. So we see local tone mapping 2K 183.604 pixels a second, and then for local tone mapping 4K we see 178.086, and then for game effects for ocean surface simulation we see 1746.4 iterations a second. Again, the reason I do not want to go too much in depth into the performance is, again, this is an early card. What I will say, however, is it is a nice demonstration that we will most likely see a lower spec RDNA card, maybe this year, maybe not. Regardless of when it comes out, I think this is a good indication that a lower spec RDNA card will come out this year. Now, I just want to point out something, as I'm sure the sharp-eyed among you will notice it if you're looking at the link I've provided. You'll see that the compute unit numbers are listed as 12, and that is actually a misread on the case of CompuBench is not reading it correctly due to the changes to RDNA. It is 24 compute units, not 12. It's just being misread again by CompuBench here. So will we see a lower spec card this year? Possibly. I mean, obviously the RX 5700 and XT just came out, so around Christmas-ish time, possibly. But I've got a feeling, and it's purely just a feeling, not based on any inside information, that it's going to be early next year. But I could be completely and utterly wrong, but I think AMD might be wanting to wait, or maybe they do a price cut or a special edition of the XT or something like that around the Christmas period. Obviously, I already know they have the anniversary edition of the XT, but they could do something else, or they could just release this lower spec card. Lots of options for AMD, but we're going to move over to our final topic for today, which is regarding the Nintendo Switch. So, the other day, of course, we got the confirmation of the Nintendo Switch Lite, which we've been hearing so much about. It did leave a big question mark over the Nintendo Switch Pro, which was the rumoured upgrade with improvements to the actual hardware to the original vanilla Nintendo Switch. And you may recall that there was a listing on the US Federal Communications Commission, filing, which basically said that Nintendo wanted to upgrade the SoC and the NAND memory of the Switch chip itself. Now, we've got a bit more information about this, interestingly enough, posted by Heskin on Twitter, and according to them, references to both the Lite and new Switch have been in the firmware since the last system update 5.0, which actually happened last year. So, what we're basically going to be seeing, at least if this report is correct, and obviously if Nintendo ends up following the previous listing that I've just discussed, we're going to be seeing a new Tegra chip, improved Tegra chip being used, and we're most likely going to be seeing it in both the Switch Lite and the Switch Pro. So you might go, okay, if that's the case, what would actually make the Pro Pro? And the answer is, well, the Pro would be clocked at higher speeds. And we would also see the GPU get a bit of a boost as well. And as Heskin writes on Twitter, we are allegedly going to be seeing 8 gigs of memory. And we're going to be seeing the new model support LPDDR4X DRAM, which should give us a boost in battery life. Again, that improvement to the GPU. And apparently we might also see some internal storage being offered in the new Switch. Obviously at the moment we only see 32 gigs of internal memory on the current Switch models, and apparently we're going to be seeing a bit of an upgrade to that. So obviously there's not really much solid evidence that Nintendo are going to be launching a Switch Pro model based on the Tegra X2 SoC, but it seems that Nintendo are at least thinking of doing something, a improved version of the Switch, even if it's not a massive improvement. They're cooking something up, or at least it appears to be that they're cooking something up. And you may recall Paul discussed recently how We are not going to be seeing one this year, but it does seem very possible that we are going to be seeing it at some point. And it would be well within Nintendo's remit and past history and shenanigans for them to do something exactly like this. I mean, how many versions of the 3DS were there? Don't know. Lost count, to be honest with you. And they've done that with the DS. I think the only one they didn't do it with was with the Wii, maybe, and the Wii U. But, you know, the Wii U, bit of a truck fire, that one, let's just put it politely. Anyway, that is me done for this video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, your support is highly appreciated. Do remember to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Hope you guys have a pleasant weekend, and I'll see you next time.